Right on, my friends. Welcome to the MR Runningpains podcast, episode number 67. I'm Aaron Saft, and today, as promised, I have the final piece of the tale of Natalie Daniel and her Brute Challenge. She finished up the 5 runs that we've talked about previous. I'll put the episode in the show notes, the previous episode. So if you want to hear the whole tale, you can go back and listen if you haven't done so already. I also have, as a second part to this episode, Charles Raffensberger. Charles is the creator of the Brute Challenge, so we get to talk to him and hear about how he came up with this and also his adventures. Charles has been running for quite some time and has a lot of awesome experiences. He even talks about doing a lap at Barclays. So, listen to the second part of that episode. And then after Charles' interview, we'll wrap up as we usually do and talk about things that are going on. So first up, Natalie Daniel. I'd like to welcome back Natalie Daniel to the podcast. Miss Natalie, even though we just said hello before this, how are you doing?
Good. How are you doing?
Still doing well. Natalie has just completed the Brute Challenge, which, Natalie, do you want to give us an acronym for what the Brute Challenge stands for and what the races are, or the runs are?
It is the Blue Ridge Ultra
Trail.
Oh crap! Now I've forgotten what it is. The Blue Ridge Ultra Trail
Endurance.
Challenge, yeah.
Give you a little help there.
Sorry about that. I had a brain fart.
Happens to me all the time. It's hard when you do a podcast and you have brain farts all the time. That's mine, and I pray that the listeners are forgiving. But so we had just kind of gone over before we started recording the order in which you did these events, these routes, and the idea is to complete them within a calendar year. Is that correct?
Yes.
Okay.
Yeah, or within, I guess it's supposed to be a calendar year or within 365 days. So I guess the calendar year would be from January to December, but
okay.
Yeah.
Sweet. So the first one you did, and we talked about this on our last episode. And for those that missed this last episode, I'll put the link in the show notes so you can go back and hear about this more. But your first run was which?
The Foothills Trail. The
Foothills Trail, which was almost a year ago, right?
Yes, it was. It was May 1st of last year. Yeah.
Okay. Yeah. So you started May 1st last year at this, and you had this challenge in mind when you started that?
No, I did not know about this challenge when I did that. I just, I used it as a replacement for GDR since GDR was canceled.
Gotcha. When did you learn about the Brute Challenge?
Probably, I would say maybe August or September of last year.
Okay. Right on. Which makes sense because you had quite a gap because your second run was the Georgia Loop, right?
Yes.
And so that was in December. So you went about 5 or I guess 7 months, about 7 months. Yeah. Okay. Was there any reason for that gap?
Well, for one, I didn't know about it. And then also I had fall races that I had one in September, 100-miler in October, and then one, basically I had a race every month. So there wasn't really any time for me to do any more of these runs until after I finished my races.
Okay. Gotcha. So Georgia Loop, and then this is the one we spent a lot of time in on the last podcast, which was Massanutten, which you had to take 2 attempts at because of the injury.
Yeah.
So, and that was February. And that's so that we recorded after Massanutten, and you had said on the podcast you were going to give yourself about 4 to 6 weeks to recover, but I guess quickly changed your mind and went after Pitchell. What was the impetus for for that quick turnaround? Just the window.
So, well, I was looking at the weather, and the weather for the weekend that I did it was going to be really nice. But then after that, I think there was an expected snowstorm and a lot of rain. And I'm not one to put myself in those situations in bad weather. I mean, you're already dealing with being out there by yourself. So I was like, well, the weather looks good. I thought that I was recovered enough, but we can get into that.
Yeah. Oh, yeah.
So yeah, I mean, the weather looked good. So that was basically it.
So Pitchell, a lot of folks are going to know Pitchell, but if you would just kind of break down distance, elevation gain, that sort of thing.
I believe I got like 62 miles, but I think it's closer to 66.
Right.
You probably know that better. And then elevation gain is close to 16, I believe.
Yep.
Correct?
Yep. Yes.
Yeah.
Yeah.
But I think the hard thing about Pitchell is that, you get almost the first 50K is either I wouldn't say flat, but relatively flat and downhill.
Yep.
And like 80% of the gain is in the last 25 miles.
Yeah. Yeah. Absolutely. Yep. Yeah. When you're heading up to Mitchell. Yep.
Yeah.
It is. Yeah. It's tough. And for those that aren't familiar with our area, it follows the Mountains to Sea Trail. So Pitchell gets its name it starts on Mount Pisgah. So you have to hike up Mount Pisgah, which is about 1.5 miles and about 1,500 feet of gain, but that's not part of the route. That's just, getting to the start and starting on the summit and then running back down, which gets you onto our shut-in trail. And then you just follow the Mountains to Sea all the way to Mount Mitchell. So 66 miles is it sounds about right, and 16,000 feet of gain. So, so you had this kind of short turnaround. How are the legs going into that?
Well, the legs were good. I would say the first 50K, I was actually able to run quite a bit of that. Although I was pretty cautious because I had fallen, that fall at Massanutten, and then I did the midnight start. So I was pretty cautious on the way down from Mount Pisgah in the dark. I didn't want to take a chance on falling and hitting my head again since I was out there by myself, because I did do it unsupported.
Okay.
So my legs felt fine. The only thing was my foot. I think it was my left foot was bothering me, and I couldn't figure out what in the world was going on until after I finished running. And I realized that I remember my cat had clawed me on the top of my foot like the day before. And if I'd known that, I wouldn't have even paid attention to it. But I was thinking, my shoe was too tight, or, I was having some kind of tendon issue, and it was just my stupid cat.
Oh, yeah. So just in reference, what was the turnaround time from Massanutten in February to Pitchell in March? How many weeks?
I think it was like 10 days.
10 days?
Yeah.
Gotcha. Oh my gosh. Okay. So you did do the midnight start, which is kind of the tradition for Pitchell. And the reason for that tradition is that Mount Mitchell State Park, where we finish, it is gated at night. So the park does close. So, it gives the most people the best opportunity to finish and still be able to get out of the park. So that's the reason for the midnight start. But yeah, it's a treacherous start with all of the rocks coming back down and such. That's it's a little bit scary. But as you move down shut in, as Natalie said, you lose a ton. You go downhill. It's 5,000 feet of descending down to the French Broad River. So legs actually held up pretty well then.
Yeah.
Yeah. Okay, good. And then, like you described, it is pretty flat till you get to the folk art, and that's when a lot of the climbing starts. You were self-supported. So talk to me about what you had packed. How much did you pack?
Let's see. I think I had like 2 soft flasks of water. I mean, of Tailwind, and then a full bladder of water, and then I carried my Sawyer filter, and but I ended up only filtering once, kind of, I think about mile 20 or 21,
Okay.
which was a mistake. But I probably should have filtered one more time because I did end up running out of water right at the very end. I think with 2 miles left, I ran out of water. But so I carried that, and I had been carrying sweet potatoes. I carried some Spring Energy, beef jerky, or like little Slim Jims, fruit cups, and baggies. I try to carry more of real food versus gel. I don't use goo. And then of course I had my bivy sack, and then my emergency blanket, and then I had a first aid kit that I will probably carry with me all the time now. And I had a waist lamp and a headlamp and a spare headlamp just in case, extra layers just in case, which I never needed because it was so warm. But all the regular stuff. I think I might have had an extra pair of socks somewhere in there just in case. But
what pack did you have?
Well, Nathan at the Ultra Running Company, he gave me like a 7 to 8 year old Solomon 12 set.
Oh, okay.
So that's what I've been using.
Yeah, it's a nice pack.
Yeah, it's been working pretty good, especially now that I finally figured out how to cinch everything down better.
Yeah, it's amazing how stretchy that material is because you can really kind of cram stuff in there. No, that's great. So, only filtered one at mile 20, so that would have put you pretty much down by the French Broad, just past it, kind of in between there and Highway 25. So you're moving along pretty well there. That's good. And you got to the Folk Art Center. It's about 50K, roughly 50K.
Yeah.
And then the climbing started. Were you using poles?
Yeah, I carried poles the whole time. Mm-hmm.
Okay. And how did the climbing go? What did the back half feel like? So I guess that would have put you somewhere like already into the morning hours. Yeah. So it would have already been dawn by that time, right?
Yeah. 8:00. I remember it was like right at 8:00. I made it to the Folk Art Center because I texted, my ride who was going to meet me at Mount Mitchell. I texted him and I texted my husband to let them know I was about halfway at 8:00. And I was doing really well. I was even running after that because, you're not climbing that much right after the Folk Art Center. Well, once you, I'm not sure exactly what the peak is, but there's like one climb after that, and then it's rolling for a while. And I was still able to run pretty well in that section. But I remember once I passed Rattlesnake Lodge, and I think that's around mile 40 or so,
mm-hmm.
When the real climbing started. And then you're going up towards Lane Pinnacle and all that. That's right. That's when I really started feeling it. And I still felt good though. I felt good all the way through that. Craggy. I was feeling really, really good pretty much the whole time until I think it's mile 50 or so, or mile 55. And I should remember the name of the climb, but it's like, you know how it starts to get more, you see all the I call them Christmas trees. It's more.
Yes. Yes.
You cross the street. Yeah, you cross the street. Mm-hmm. Yeah, the Walker, I think it's the Walker's Knob Overlook or something.
Yes.
And from then on, and I don't know if it's because it's a higher elevation or what, I just started feeling so nauseous, and I started having a hard time swallowing again. And like, I didn't want any of like my Slim Jim. I couldn't even swallow that. I chewed it up and I ended up having to spit it out. Just that at that point I wished I'd have had more like fruit cups and things that I could almost just drink.
Yeah. You're out of your fruit cups.
Yes. yeah, I ran out. But so at that point, it's like I felt like I was stuck in a time warp. That like it, even when it wasn't climbing, it's so technical. I was moving so slowly, and I know it was around mile 50, 55 or so, because I remember texting and telling that I was in single digits.
Nice.
And you know, which you would think, okay, it's not going to be that much longer, but ended up being quite a bit longer after that.
So that's the way Pitchell works. That especially those last few miles going up Mitchell. But do you carry a Garmin, like an InReach or anything like that? Or
yeah, I had an InReach, so that was very helpful. But then, you know, like, so my ride once, Josh, you know Josh Foland.
Yes. Mm-hmm.
Well, he was up at Mitchell and he wasn't getting a signal.
Okay.
So he couldn't tell where I was at. He ended up going to the ranger station and getting a signal so he could see where I was at, and
Mm-hmm.
that helped him a lot. But yeah, I had an InReach.
So you had the tracking on for that.
Yes. Yeah.
Good. Did you have any problems with navigation? Did you have any problems with keeping on the trail?
Not during Pitchell, because I had done pretty much the only section I had a hard time with was at the very, very end, like literally at the very end when you're going up Old Mitchell. There's a sign and it says MST one way and the other way, and I was like, okay, which and my waist light had died.
No backup battery.
No, but I have one now.
Good. So you're going up Mitchell, and it was already getting dark on you. But how was it during the day? You said that the temperatures were a little bit warm. How warm did it get on you?
It was really warm, and I don't know why I decided to wear capris, and the whole time I kept thinking, man, I wish I'd have worn some shorts or a skirt or something, because I was so hot.
Yeah.
I mean, I had on a short sleeve shirt and capris, and I was still like, I get really, really hot. So I was stopping and cooling off where I could, you know, I had arm sleeves, so I was dipping my arm sleeves in the water. You know, I had a buff, so I was like dipping that in the water and, you know, trying to cool off that way. So yeah, I mean, it just got, I think it seemed like it was in the 70s.
Okay. Gotcha. And which would have, you know, at that time, that would have been like a surprise to the system, because we really hadn't had any hot weather yet.
Right.
Yeah. Okay. So you're climbing up Mitchell, which, it's a technical kind of debacle to get up that anyway. It's just slow going. But the section before that, you come off a Walker Knob and cross over the park entrance road. That's pretty nice and flat. Were you able to do some running there, or was the stomach too bad?
Walker's Knob. Is that
you know, when you come out of Walker's Knob, that's the climb that we were talking about, and then you cross over the road, that's the Mount Mitchell entrance road. It's like Highway 128.
Oh yeah.
And then you just go down onto the trail, and it's like an old railroad bed. There's like a few creeks that run across it, but it's pretty wide. And it's just flat, you know, pretty flat grade for a while. Do you remember that section, or
was that like the Bunkham Horse Trail?
Yes. Yeah.
Oh yeah. Yeah. No, and that I did make up time on that. I was able to, but the thing was that, you know how when you're coming down before you get to that, it started, there was no rain in the forecast that I had seen, but it started raining around that section, and that was right around getting close to sunset. So, and then it just, once I got on the Bunkham Horse Trail, it just started dumping. And then of course, you know, you're getting higher up, so I started getting a little cooler. But yeah, I was able to kind of jog. And then, and even when I was walking, I was still walking like a 16-minute mile. So I was able to make up time on that. And that's when, like, when I was about 3 miles away, I texted Josh again and told him, you know, hey, I'm about 3 miles away, but he never got it. So that caused a slight problem. But yeah, I mean, I liked that section a lot to make up time.
Yeah, it's pretty too. Well, and was it getting dark at that time, or was it you still had
dark.
sunlight? It was dark. Yeah. It's pretty during the day because it's just kind of a nice kind of tunnel, that you're just running through. I mean, that course has so many views and everything, but that is a pretty section.
Yeah.
It's kind of a nice way to to take a relief from all the climbing you just did, and then you've got the final climb up to the top. But so your final climb up the top, was your stomach getting any better? Did you have any more luck as you got closer to the finish, or no?
No, I felt pretty cruddy from all the way to the end, but it was okay. I mean, I'm used to that, and I'm starting to think that maybe, and I know some people will disagree with this, but I really think I'm just very, very sensitive to any sort of altitude, because I have noticed that I've been having that issue anytime I get over a certain elevation.
I think you had mentioned that with the art lobe that you just attempted, which we can talk about in a little bit. But didn't you mention that in your post, how you kind of had that sensitivity still?
Yes, and during SCAR, which we'll talk about.
Okay. Yeah. Well, as you know, where did the so I think you said when you hit Walker Knob, that's when the stomach really started getting sensitive.
Yes, it was just really starting to get really bad.
Yeah, you're well over 5,000 feet at that point. So,
right.
Yeah, you're over a mile, and then as you obviously you get at Mitchell, you're over 6,000. So, so yeah. So, when did the park close?
It closed at 8:00. Okay. So coming off the Bunkham Horse Trail, you turn on the old, I guess it's the Old Mitchell Trail. Mm-hmm. And I start hiking up that, and you know how technical that is, and it's kind of scrambling. And then about that time, my waist lamp died. So I'm trying to hike up Old Mitchell with my phone in my hand because my headlamp, it just wasn't giving off any light. It didn't seem like. So I have my poles in one hand and my phone in the other hand, and it just seemed like it was the longest trail ever, but it's really only a mile or a mile and a half, if that.
Yeah.
So, I finally get off of that and I'm walking up the road and I hear Josh yelling from the very top. He said, "You scared me." He was really fussing at me because he was so worried that, he hadn't heard from me in so long. He thought that I was out there just lost in the woods. And I'm like, well, you should know I'm fine. So, yeah, and I got to the top and he had a chair waiting for me down, after I actually summited and everything. He had a chair waiting for me, and he was nice enough. He brought me a Coke and even gave me a payday because I was starving. And by that time, though, it was like, it was clear once you got off of Mitchell, but it was just wailing. It was storming, and the weather was terrible. It was so foggy. We had no visibility coming back down, driving back to Mount Pisgah. Mm-hmm. And it was crazy because once we got off of Mitchell, once we got down so low, it was completely clear.
That's bizarre.
That's exactly what I was going to say. It has its own weather system.
Just like Mount Washington up in New Hampshire. It's got its own weather system up there.
Right.
But no problems with the feet or anything like that. You don't get too wet on that course, which is nice. That last bit of Bunkham Horse, there's, like I said, there's some creek crossings, but overall your feet don't get too wet. Did your feet hold up pretty well?
Oh yeah. I was completely dry until that last 4 or 5 miles. Yeah.
What do you use for Anti-Chafe? Just out of curiosity.
I actually use Bag Balm.
What's it called?
My friend, Bag Balm. It's used for cow's udders.
Okay.
So my friend recommended that to me because I was using Vaseline and it wasn't sticking as much. And the bag, I hate to say this because at the store we sell lots of other stuff, but it's just cheaper and it works really well. I really never have any issues with chafing, unless there's like other issues.
Yeah. Okay. What is it? Is it like, what's it based with? Is it like a petroleum base or?
I think so. I'd have to look at the can, but
Where do you find that?
well, I get mine at Walmart, but you can buy it online.
Okay.
I mean, you can buy it pretty much everywhere.
Yeah, yeah. I use Boudreaux's butt paste, like a diaper rash cream.
Yeah.
It's zinc oxide based, but it doesn't come off. And I mean, you're completely white. I mean, your hands and everything, because when you put it on, it doesn't come off your hands. So it's like you're trying to wipe it everywhere, but your shorts are a mess and bad. But it works. I mean, it definitely doesn't come off, like even in like really humid stuff. So. Yeah, it's I know the run shops, they carry like the squirrel nut butter and the Body Glide and the Two Toms product, all those different ones. But like I said, I found the baby diaper rash stuff is is the best stuff for me. But anyhow, okay, so finish that. And you had one left, right? One left to do. Yeah. Did you did you always have in your mind that Scar would be last, or was there any intention in the order in which you did these?
Well, originally I thought that I was going to do Scar and then Pitchell, but because I really didn't think that the Parkway was going to be open as soon as it was. But the weather, like I said, I mean, the weather had just been so nice that the Parkway was finally open. And that was another reason why I did it, because I'm like, oh, the Parkway's open. I need to just go ahead and get it done.
Yeah.
Because it can be so finicky, if,
right. Yeah. When I talked to Kyle Curtin with his FKT on Pitchell, he had to hike 4.5 miles to the start because the Parkway was closed. And then he had a hike from Mitchell down to the Black Mountain campground to get to his ride. So, another 6 miles after finishing. So, not only did he do the Pitchell route, but he added on an additional basically 10 to 11 miles of additional hiking just to, because of Parkway closures. So yeah, if people are going to do Pitchells, just make sure, because the Parkway can close for various reasons, but especially, as Natalie was saying, in the winter and spring and even some of the fall months, if there's any kind of inclement weather, they definitely close it like really easily. So definitely creates challenges.
Yeah, I didn't want to do all that extra hiking.
Yeah, I hear you. Yeah. I mean, Kyle had his dad like ride his bike into, various points so that, he could meet up with him. So, it definitely creates a lot of logistical challenges, but yeah. And, I think I did mine in I did it July 4th one year. And it was, I mean, it was warm. Yeah. But I mean, it was, those higher altitudes, it's actually a little bit cooler. So, I know the traditional time is fall, but, it's one of those runs that I think, especially you have a nice day. It's such a beautiful route. So, and I saw some of your pictures too. So you always take some really great pictures. So you had mentioned the run shop. That's a ultra run company, right? With Nathan?
Yeah.
Yeah. Nice. Nathan just reached out as well. So I'm sure he'll listen to this episode and hear us talking about other products than what he sells. So, we're going to have an episode with him coming up as well.
Cool.
So Scar is probably, it's known, I wouldn't say it's probably as well known as Pitchell. Pitchell seems to be getting a lot of attention. But I'm sure a lot of people know what Scar is. But if you would just talk about Scar a little bit and where that is, what it is, etc.
So Scar is the Appalachian Trail that runs through the Smokies. It goes from Fontana Dam to Davenport Gap, or vice versa, whichever direction you want to do it in. I think most people start at Fontana and go to Davenport Gap. It's about 76 miles and about 18,000 feet of gain or so. It was a little bit more because I remember getting to 18 and I was mad that I was still climbing. But yeah.
Which way did you go?
I went from Fontana Dam to Davenport Gap.
Nice. And unsupported?
No, I actually did have support for that one because this one I wasn't going after any FKT or anything. I just wanted to finish the Brutes Challenge. Because the unsupported and supported are so fast, there was no chance. So I'm like, I'm just going to have fun on this one.
We should touch back on that. Did you get the unsupported for Pitchell?
Yes.
And what was the finishing time for that?
I think it was 19:53. I think I had like 7 minutes before the park closed.
Oh my goodness.
The ranger actually drove behind us and locked the gate.
And gave you the boot.
Yeah, no, he was really, really nice though. He was waiting. So yeah, I was very thankful that they didn't lock us in.
Yeah, absolutely. Oh gosh. Right on. So Scar, starting at Fontana. I haven't done Scar personally, so I know less about it, but what I have heard from that one, and it's probably a wise decision to be supported, is there's less water out on that course. Is that true?
People say that, but I don't know. Maybe if it was just good this time of year, I didn't experience that. But also, again, I don't filter water a lot. I don't drink as much as I should probably, but it works for me. I had no issues. Like there's at the shelters, there's usually water, and as long as I always carry a full bladder almost, and then 2 soft flasks. And when I do filter, I fill up my bladder and then I fill up my soft flask. So
okay, that's fair. And how often were you able to see crew?
Well, there's really only one crew access, and that's at Newfound Gap, which is around mile 40 or so, maybe 41. That was the only time, and I was unsupported through that. So I did the first 40 miles by myself, and then I did the last 50K or so with a friend.
Okay, nice. And how long had it been since you had completed Pitchell?
About 3.5 weeks.
So you gave yourself a little bit of rest.
Yeah.
But you were also under the kind of a deadline too, right? To kind of complete the series within your 365 days, right?
Yeah. And I know it sounds crazy, but I was just thinking, like, if something happened and I wasn't able to finish for some reason this time, at least that would give me a buffer and I could go back out and reattempt it before May 1st. I didn't want to do that, but at least I had that option if I went ahead and just did it. And again, the weather was good. So that was kind of, I wanted to do it while the weather was good.
Yeah. Nice. Okay. And we probably should, touch on, I don't think we talked about it in the last one. Do you know who came up with the Brute Challenge?
I think it was Charles Raffensberger.
That's what I thought. Okay.
Yeah, he has the whole write-up. There's a web page and everything for it.
Right. Okay. I thought it was Charles. Let's just making sure. I'll put the website in the show notes for those that are interested in seeing this and hearing more about the courses. Charles has made up a few cool, kind of challenges like this. So kudos to him. Maybe we'll have to have him on the episode sometime.
Yeah. Somebody that can come up with all the. I mean, he didn't come up with the routes, but just doing these 5 routes. Yeah, it was a lot of fun.
I'm putting him on my idea board for future podcasts because he would be a great interview too. He's such a cool guy. Him and Psyche, they're wonderful people. Okay, let's talk a little bit about Scar because as I said, I don't know as much about it. I really haven't, and I don't think I've rushed really well. Maybe a little bit of that because you go through kind of that Charlie's Bunyan area, like Newfound Gap, right?
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, so I've run just a little portion of it, but honestly, I've not run any of the AT from Fontana. How was that?
Well, it starts out like you're on the road because you have to go across the dam.
Yeah.
And then you're going up the road for a minute, but then even as you're going up the road, you're kind of climbing a little bit, but the climbing starts almost immediately. And then it's like you never really stop climbing until you get to Klingman's Dome. But I will say it's beautiful. The whole route is just gorgeous. I mean, the Appalachian Trail is so well maintained. They do everything but just blow it off. So that's really nice. I guess this time of year there's a lot of thru hikers. So there were a lot of thru hikers. I ran into a lot of people.
That's cool.
Yeah, it was nice to hear their stories. It was a little frustrating at the end, kind of leapfrogging with a couple thru hikers who, I would stop and I'll get into that, but there were a lot more people than what I'm used to on these types of runs.
Sure. Excuse me. Pardon me. Excuse me.
Yeah. Yeah. And, I came up on this one guy that was thru hiking. Man, he was going really fast, but then I got to a point where I could run some, but, I don't think he was aware of me at all because he had his earbuds in and he was singing some kind of country music at the top of his lungs. And that was funny.
That's awesome. What time of day did you start for this?
I started around 1:00. My husband had to work the night before and I was like, yeah, well, whenever you get up, that's when we'll go. So we got up, ate breakfast, and got there around 1:00.
Right on. It's quite a haul to get out there.
Yeah. I don't, what was it like? I think it was like 3
for you,
or 4 hours. Yeah.
It takes us even 2.5 to get out there. Cause it's just, it's just out there. But yeah, you're right. It is gorgeous. It is beautiful out there. And they do such, like you said, the AT, just the trail crews just do such incredible work out there. Did you have, because this is kind of, well, I guess it's kind of late spring, but had it look like they had been out there much, kind of clearing blowdowns and all that stuff?
It always looks good. I mean, I didn't have any issues that I remember with a lot of blowdowns.
That's awesome.
That was the one issue I didn't have. So
yeah,
this was my roughest run out of, I think, all of them though.
Yeah. You feeling the miles?
Well, it started out, I got my COVID shot. Let's see, I did the run on Sunday. I got my shot on Thursday. And I guess maybe I was still feeling not 100% from that. And then I had some other issues going on, like female issues.
Yeah.
And then a big thing was I didn't get to eat. I didn't really get to eat before because I'd eaten breakfast, but I didn't eat. We were going to stop and get lunch, and we get past a certain point, and there's like nothing.
Yeah.
And so I had a pack of crackers, and I think I think I went in a little depleted already, and like I was feeling it. I was ready to quit around mile 4. I was like, oh my God, this is hard. But what was funny, as bad as I felt, I was still ahead of my time goal. So, and I'm just like, well, I feel bad sometimes. I'll just suck it up. But I just never felt better. I felt pretty crappy almost the whole time. And just like calorie depleted the whole time.
Was that shot number 1 that you had?
Was it the what?
Was that shot number 1 or shot number 2?
Oh, no, I only did it one time.
Oh, you did the Johnson?
Oh, yeah. I'm sorry. No, I don't. Yeah, it was the first shot. Yeah, it was which is supposed to be not that bad, but I swear the first shot was worse than the second. My arm was unbelievably sore. And I think that somebody said you have to hydrate really well, and I did not do that. So my headache was really, really bad afterwards. Sorry, I misunderstood your question at first.
Okay.
But, and I know different people react differently.
Yes.
like I said, the second shot, I didn't really feel anything. My arm wasn't sore, but also somebody said if you work out your arm right after, it won't be a sore. So I was like doing these arm lifts and doing all this weird stuff after my second shot to make sure that my arm wasn't sore.
But you made it through. Yeah, well, obviously you did. But so, you're fighting along. Did you try to consume more calories just because of how you were feeling?
Yes.
Yeah. So you went through your fruit cups even faster?
Yeah. And then the other thing was I dropped my sweet potatoes somewhere. So I completely ran out of calories.
Oh my God.
About 2 miles from where I was meeting my husband and my pacer. And then I saw, like, how they'll have trail angels. They'll leave bags of stuff.
Yeah.
Well, it was tuna and peanut butter. And I'm like, I'm not there. Like, I just couldn't even fathom eating tuna and peanut butter because, like, peanut butter is hard to eat anyway when you're running.
Yep. Yeah. I just don't do tuna. So,
I wasn't going to eat tuna while I was running because that didn't seem like very appealing.
And what do you do with your sweet potatoes? Do you mash them ahead of time, or what do you do?
Yeah, I mix it with like chia seeds and some other stuff, and I mash them and put them in a baby food pouch. Okay.
Do you add any type of like oil or butter or anything to kind of make them a little bit easier to get down?
No. Well, I add like coconut flakes, but no, I don't add any oil or butter because once you mash them, they're pretty. I mean, it's like baby food almost.
Okay.
Yeah.
Cool. Yeah, nice. So chia seeds, coconut. Wow, you got a lot of good stuff in there. That's cool. Right on. And you just put it in like a baggie, or?
Yeah, I put it in a baby food pouch.
Okay. Right on. So
it has a little lid and everything.
And like, do you carry just one of those, or how many do you carry?
I just had one for the first 40 miles, and then I had another one waiting for me.
Okay. And then just your other usual things like you talked about at Pitchell. Did you still have your Slim Jims and Spring Energies and all that good stuff?
Yeah. Yes. But I went through all that because I guess, well, obviously, when you're climbing, you're burning calories a little bit faster.
Right. Yep. Yeah. It's, do you typically try to eat on the climbs, or are you wait until the downhills? What do you typically do, or just whenever you can?
Yeah, I just eat. Well, I try to eat like every hour or so. I try to eat something. I also have tailwind, but I do typically eat when I'm walking, or even if I'm running. Sometimes I'll just stop and walk and then eat something. If I start to feel hungry at all, then I'll eat a little bit extra. Mm-hmm. But there were enough climbs to where, it didn't, I didn't have to wait for too many downhills.
That's for sure. Yeah. It's definitely tougher to eat on the uphills because you're putting forth a lot more effort. Definitely easier to eat on the downhills because, you're not pumping as much blood to the muscles to do the work. So the blood can kind of go to the stomach and help with digestion. So, well, cool. So, you've got plenty of climbing, aside from the calories. And, you said you weren't feeling good when you got to, 50K to go and you seeing your crew and your pacer. What was your mental state like? Cause you had just been through a lot. You said you didn't feel good at all. Your calories were just depleted and you ate everything. So where were you mentally?
I think I was still in pretty good spirits. I was really, really happy to see them. I was a little frustrated because, like, even coming from Klingman's, it's downhill and you think that you're going to be running, but believe it or not, there was a lot of ice. So coming down from Klingman's, there's like some switchbacks, and there were some runnable sections, but there was also a lot of ice, especially on the switchbacks.
Did you have an compression device?
No.
But
yeah, I mean, my husband could probably tell you better, but I think I was in a pretty good mood when I saw them. I was just like, I got to get calories in. So I ate like a half an avocado, some banana, peanut butter. My ginger ale, the can had gotten warped, so I couldn't get into that. But I had a little bit of RC cola, so I drank some of that. And once I got some calories in, I think I was feeling a little bit better.
So you took some time when you got to those guys and just kind of like refueled a little bit.
Yeah, I didn't take a whole lot of time, but I know my pacer, he was like, he's like, it's cold up here. And he was like trying to rush me. I was like, well, you can sit in the truck and warm up. Well, I said, I got to make sure I'm situated for the rest of this. Oh, and then I had some Cheez-Its that I had bought for after the run. And I was like, just put the Cheez-Its in a baggie. And I took those with me because I knew that I needed something extra.
That's what Cheez-Its is. Funny side stories. My kid's favorite aid station story that I tell. I got into an aid station. I think it was a GDR one year, and I was just having a rough day. And the volunteer says, "What can we get you?" And I said, "I need Jesus." And they're like, "You need Cheez-Its?" I was like, "No, not Cheez-Its." But
hey, that, you know what? That's almost the same though, depending on the circumstance.
It was a trip, but yeah, it gave me a smile. Still makes me smile, especially when I see Cheez-Its at the aid station. I leave them in the sign of a cross. But anyhow, good. So you got refueled. Yeah, I'm sure you loaded up again, with water and food and such. And you had, let's see, you said that's about 40 miles. So you had about 37 to go. Am I thinking right?
It was about, I mean, it depends. Like, GPS watches aren't accurate, but we had like 33 on our watches in that section when we were done, but I had already done over 40. It was like 41 or 42 or something.
Okay. Gotcha. Okay. So let's talk about that back section. Where are you time of day right now with the?
I was way behind schedule from. I think it was like 3 in the morning or so.
Okay.
I picked up my pacer, and then you start out. It's kind of rocky, that section, and you're still climbing. I think you're pretty much climbing until you get to Mount. I'm not sure how to say it. Mount Diet.
I think which one that is,
which is a pretty high peak as well. You're pretty much climbing until you get to the last 5 or 6 miles or something. Like it's still gradual, even if it's not bad. You're still climbing.
Yeah.
But because I think I was at like 14,000 feet or 13,000 feet, and I ended up getting like another 6,000 feet after that. So I did 13,000 feet in the first 40 miles and then 6,000 in the last 30.
Yeah.
But I will say it was nice. I had not had company on a long run in so long. It's like I had all this pent up conversation that, I mean, my pacer, because I had told him ahead of time, I was like, now look, you're not going to get fun run, Natalie. You're going to get 40 miles in. This is BS, Natalie. And then he's like, your 40 miles in BS, Natalie, isn't much different than your fun run, Natalie. Because I was singing and talking and, I think I even rapped a little bit.
I'd like to hear a sample of that.
No, well, it's probably gonna be about as good as your when you did your the bagpipes.
Yeah, absolutely. That's great.
I'm not doing that. Not on air.
Do you usually have pacers when you do 100-milers and such? Do you like pacers?
I think I have had pacers for pretty much every one. The last one I hadn't planned to, but somebody at the last minute just asked me if I wanted a pacer. I was like, yeah, sure. But usually like the last 20 to 30 miles, I do like to have a pacer. It's just, and they'll tell you, like, I don't really need a pacer. I just need company. Like,
yeah. Yeah. I agree. Yeah, that's I'm doing Old Dominion here coming up, and they do not allow pacers except for an 11-mile section. It's more like a safety runner. So that will be interesting because I am a social runner. I like having people around. Like in Umstead, once my pacers came out, things just seem so much better.
Yeah.
But, so that will be interesting. I got lucky at UTMB because obviously UTMB doesn't allow pacers. When I ran into Darian and was able to hike with him. But yeah, I mean, it is kind of nice, especially you've been just so. If we look back, the Foothills Trail, that was solo, right?
Yeah.
Yep. And then we go to Georgia Loop, which was solo, right?
Yeah.
Yep. Massanutten was solo. Pitchell was solo. So, these are all, 100K to 125K efforts that were solo. And you had done a 100-miler last fall. Which 100-miler had you done?
No business.
No business. Did you have pacer?
Yes, the last 50K or so, I did have a pacer.
Nice. Well, at least you had a little company there.
GDR, I did not have a pacer, but it was shortened, but it was harder.
Gotcha.
I didn't have a pacer for that. And
was that the out and back course?
Yes.
Yeah. That is tough. That is tough. Cruel Jewel, as we record this, Cruel Jewel is starting today. So we're recording on May 14th and Cruel Jewel starts today. So, that's, kind of similar. They go out 50 something miles and then back, and that's just brutal. So have you done that one?
No, but I will say the weather looks really good this weekend.
Yes.
I'm like, this would be the year to do it.
Right. Yes. Yeah, no, yes, for sure. The year I did it, it was like 85 degrees at the start. It just got hotter.
It was awful. I remember I knew a lot of people that were doing it. Was it 2 years ago or so? Maybe 3 years ago?
Yep. Yeah. 2019. Yeah.
Right. And they were talking about, I remember Andy James Wilkins, I heard him on a podcast, and he said that people's eyebrows were chafing. I had dropping. Go ahead.
I dropped. Yeah. I was cramping at like mile 17. I was already cramping. It just got worse. I had to drop. But yeah, it's, but to get back to the point, having people there is just so much easier. Did you feel a lot, it sounds like you were a little bit more, positive and sounded a little bit, stronger mentally when you picked up the pacer. Would you say that?
Yeah. I still felt horrible because I remember like several times, I had my Cheez-Its, and I remember sitting down at one point and I ate like half the bag of Cheez-Its. And I was like, but I told him, I said, I got to sit down and eat because I'm just feeling like poo-poo. But I say it with a positive attitude. I'm just like, I gotta sit down and eat. Or like when we were going downhill, when we finally were going downhill, I was running like a 16-minute mile, and he's like, we can try to run here. I'm like, I am running. But,
thanks, Jared.
I did end up running I did get up to about an 11-minute pace because I was just ready to be done. But, it's funny because, when your legs are so tired and you're so tired, I remember one part we were going downhill, and I like to stop and look at the signs. So I went to stop to look at a sign, and I guess my brakes weren't working anymore. And my shin slammed right into a branch. I was like, oh crap, I don't have any brakes anymore. I can't stop. But, and we did, now the only time I got off course during the whole thing was with him. And we missed a turn, right before a shelter. And, we got to the shelter and we're like, what? Like the trail just ended, and it took us a minute. Finally, we asked the people that were at the shelter, and they're like, "Oh yeah, you got to go back," And unfortunately, the way back, we ended up having to climb more. I was like, man, I was really looking forward. Because the thing says 18,000 feet, and at 18,000 feet, I was like, all right, I've gotten my 18,000 feet. I'm ready to not be climbing anymore.
But as you had mentioned with Pitchell, you said that even in this one, you still had some stomach troubles. Where did those really start happening?
I felt horrible the whole time. Honestly.
It was more the stomach the whole time?
It was just my stomach. I had stomach issues, not just feeling nauseous, but the other way.
Yeah. Right.
Like a mile and a half from the start, I was having stomach issues, and I was God.
Oh gosh, yeah. And Klingman's Dome is another 6,000 foot peak. So you did get up there. You kind of go by LeConte. You don't because there's an offshoot that goes up to LeConte, but so I guess you didn't hit that one. But yeah, Klingman's Dome. Did you go to the summit on Klingsman? Because you go kind of no, you just went.
No, I wasn't making any detours.
Yeah.
And it was no view because it was at night, so it would have been pointless.
Was it pretty cloudy, or was it a pretty starry night?
No, it was really clear. Yeah, because I remember I tried to take pictures of the moon and the stars, and that doesn't show up on a camera phone.
Right. Yeah.
But it was so pretty. I remember thinking that. So that's one good thing. It keeps you in good spirits when everything is really pretty.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. No. Sometimes I wish the camera could capture what you visually see. Yeah. That drives me nuts sometimes. But okay, so you finally come out, you pop out, and you're finished. Any good stories from the finish?
No, but I will say, I guess it's kind of a good story. These guys come down from Hickory like every weekend and set up a table. So when we finished, my husband, I don't know why, he was in the truck, but these guys were sitting there and they offered us beer, and they had beer and soda and all kinds of snacks and stuff. But I didn't take anything because, I knew that I had stuff in the truck, and that was for the through hikers really. But they come and set up for the through hikers every single weekend, and have all this stuff. They have chairs. They're like, you want to sit down. And it was just, and they all have good stories to tell too.
Nice. That's cool.
And they're like, where'd you come from? And, I told them, and they were like, oh my God, how long did it take you? And I told them, and they were like, wow.
That's always great. Yep. Absolutely. Yeah. We did the same thing with Art Loeb a few weekends when we did it. We'll talk about yours next. And, it's so funny to see, these hikers that they've got these massive packs on, and here we come with our little, vests on. And where did you start? And you tell them, well, we started at, Davidson River. And they're like, when did you start? Like 2 hours ago. And they're like, what? I
know.
Been out here for 2 days. So you finished that, stomach issues aside, everything cleared up, legs kind of recovered. Okay.
Oh yeah. Yeah. I felt pretty good. Once I got some sleep and everything, I've recovered really well from that. Didn't have any issues, no injuries or anything like that.
Anything special that you did aside from your usual just eat and drink and such? Any other things? Did you do any type of massage or anything like that?
Let's see. It seems like I have some massage boots that I had not used in a while. It seems like I did use those this time.
Like the normal textile?
Yeah. Well, they like the air compressed. They use compressed air. Yeah.
Yeah.
Okay. And I don't know if they help or not, but I did it.
And if they do, they do.
Right. I use my massage stick until I'm not sore anymore. I'll do it like twice a day until I'm no longer sore, which,
right.
Some people say it's a placebo. I like it. Hello?
Oh, there you are. It's just it froze there. I can edit that part, but you said use your massage stick twice a day, and then it kind of froze.
Oh yeah, that's pretty much all I said. I just use until I'm not sore anymore. And
Yep.
some people say it's a placebo, but in my mind it works for me. I also do, like, I don't do it probably the next day, but as soon as I can, I try to do some yoga and stretching and stuff like that just to keep me loose.
Yeah.
And then I told you I have my run streak. So, and it may only be like a mile or two, but I still go out and just keep my legs fresh.
Good. Yeah. I have most of my athletes do something the day after, whether it's, I have a few streakers as well, and they do their streak mile, but like most of the people that aren't streaking, I at least have them go out and do like a hike or something like that, even if it's just getting out to walk your dog, just to move. I think it's good to get those muscles moving. What was your finish time on Scar?
It was just under 25. I think it was like 24:58, because that's what made me run faster at the end. Because I wanted to get under 24. That's typically what the goal is for most people. Yeah. And I didn't hit that, obviously. But I was looking at my watch and I was like, I really think if I hurry, I can get under 25 if I stop running this stupid 16-minute pace. So I picked it up at the very, it's amazing. I was thinking it's amazing what you can do if your mind tells you that you can do something. Like, your body will do almost anything. It's your mind that's telling you can't do it.
Yep. Absolutely.
Like, because it, also the downhill, it had those stupid steps, like those wooden, where the logs that go across are steps, and those are hard to get down when your legs are tired.
Yes. Yes, they are. Yes, they are. Oh my God. It's amazing. So you completed the challenge. And then, do they note that, like, how many people have completed the challenge? Is that, I didn't get to see on the website. Did they do anything like that on the website?
Yeah, he did.
He did.
I had to send him all my routes and stuff, and then he updated it on the website.
Nice. That's cool. I should come up with a buckle.
I know. Well, I guess, if you pay for it. I don't think that because he already, like the foothills thing, he already sends out, like, they send out a wallet when you do the foothills trail, and they ask for a donation, but I mean, I would pay for a buckle if they give me a buckle for doing. It says I did the Brooch challenge. I would pay for it. Yeah,
that's awesome. Yeah, I'll talk to Charles. I think that's worthy. Super cool. Well, congratulations on that. And then for some reason you felt like you had to go do out and back on Art Loeb.
Yeah. So while we were running, me and my friend Ben, we were talking about maybe going and doing Art Loeb. I don't know what made us talk about this, but I was like, that's only 100K. We could probably do that. Cause he was talking about how good he felt going. He called me Ultra Granny, by the way, cause I have a granddaughter, and he's like, yeah, I could do Ultra Granny pace. And, so I was like, we could probably do it, like sometime in May or whatever. That'll give me a month before I have a 24-hour race coming up in June. And so then, I was like, I just was looking at the weather and, looking at my schedule and everything, and came up with the Monday after Mother's Day to do that.
And how'd that go?
It didn't go very well. I felt really good, but I changed some stuff up, which I know they say don't change anything on race day, and this was like a race. I hydrated a lot more than what I normally do. Like, I just drank a ton of water, and I should have just stuck with what I normally do. And then I think the altitude was getting to me, but also I decided, instead of carrying my sweet potatoes and some of my regular stuff, I would carry just Spring Energy. And Spring Energy doesn't really have a lot of electrolytes. Plus, I didn't think it was going to be that warm. It was supposed to be a lot cooler than it was, and it was supposed to be rainy. So I planned for like rain and overcast and cooler temps. But it ended up being really warm, sunny. it was very, very humid. Like I don't normally sweat that much, but within the first mile, I was soaked. Like from head to toe, I was completely soaked, and and I felt really good. I felt good until I started climbing up to Pilot, and that's about mile 13 or 14. And then all of a sudden, I'm just like, oh my gosh, I am not feeling so hot. I started feeling dizzy and lightheaded, and like my legs still felt good the whole time, but I just was feeling dizzy and lightheaded and just not good. And at that point, I was thinking, at first I was like, okay, I'm just going to stop at the scout camp. And I'll have the 50K. I'm still unsupported, whatever. It'll be a good training run for whenever I do. Because I knew I was going to come back out and try it again at some point, and I will. But then I'd like text my husband right back, and I was like, you know what? Just pick me up at the Parkway at Balsam or Black Balsam. Well, then I never got a response, so I got to Black Balsam. I'm like, crap, screw it. I guess I'll just go on to the scout camp. But then, like, coming down, especially, and going over any rocks or anything like that, my feet started cramping. And then that's when I really was thinking, you know what, it's got to be my electrolytes, because my feet were cramping, and then my abs started cramping. Running, like, every time I would try to run, my abs started cramping, so I was having to walk a lot. And so I felt good, like my legs felt good, but I was clearly, my electrolytes were off. And it's weird because I always tell people, what causes cramps is muscle fatigue. It's not dehydration or anything. Well, I swear, I'm gonna have to eat my words, because I really think it was electrolytes.
Oh, man.
And I normally carry pickle juice and pickles when it's warm, but I didn't carry that. So.
Gotcha. Well, like we talked about before, if we started recording, you'll come back and give it another go, I'm sure.
But I'll actually train for it. Like I'll once I finish racing in November, I'll just create my, train for it like that's a race sometime in 2022, and then give it a, not have all this stuff under my belt already, because I've just been doing back to back to back to back, and so I probably just need a rest, which I wouldn't say it was a rest, but 30 miles is a lot less than 60.
It is. It's half.
So and I'm glad I quit, because as soon as I stopped, the whole rest of the day, and even into the next day, every time I would move my feet a certain way, my feet would cramp, or like when I went to turn to get something out of my bag in the back of the truck, my back cramped, and then my groin was, like, everything was cramping. So I was just thinking, man, could you imagine if I went back out and I started cramping like that while I'm, heading back out? Like,
right.
I could have gotten stuck in a really bad situation.
Oh, I'm glad you stopped. It's probably the wise decision. Now, you said before we started talking that you have Black Mountain Monster coming up. Is that the 24?
Yes.
Yeah. Shooting for 100?
Yes. Well, yeah, I'm hoping to get over 100.
Okay. Are you shooting for the course record, or? Yes.
Yeah, because the last time I got 100, I was a mile away from the course record, and I didn't know that, so I stopped.
Oh, well, I wish you luck there. What else is coming up?
That's it. I may do a race at the end of July that's just, it's a 42 miler, kind of stupid. Well, I wouldn't say stupid, but it's a local race, and you don't really get anything. You get beer at the end, which I don't even really drink.
What's that one called? Is that the?
Yeah. The steepest.
Okay. The steepest. Yeah. Okay.
Yeah.
Right on. Cool.
And then maybe Iron Mountain. I'm thinking if they have it this year, I would like to do maybe the 30 miler Iron Mountain.
Cool.
And then as a train and run for No Business 100.
Okay.
So
Cool. Nice. Awesome. Well, as always, it's always fun to hear about your adventures, and I wish you well at Black Mountain Monster. You're great on social media. What's the best way for people to find you or connect with you?
Well, my Facebook, I think it's just Natalie Hensley Daniel, and then my Instagram is Nate Dogg Ultra Runner. I believe it's 2 G's, like Nate Dogg, the rapper. And then, I'm not on Twitter or anything like that. So Facebook and Instagram. I do have, if anybody's local to me, like in Charlotte, I do have a trail runner page, Trail Runners of Greater Charlotte. And
you're on Strava too.
Oh yeah, I'm on Strava. It's just Natalie Daniel. So I'm not that hard to find on Strava.
I'll put those in the show notes.
Yeah, tell people, feel free to stalk my Strava if they want any routes or anything like that. I don't care about, I don't make my route secret or anything.
Yeah, cool.
So,
well, thanks for sharing the story, Natalie. It's always fun talking with you. And congratulations once again on finishing that brute challenge. That's amazing.
Thank you. And it's good talking to you.
Thank you.
So awesome to talk to Natalie. She is racing the Black Mountain Monster next weekend. So this episode will come out on Thursday, May 26th. And the Black Mountain Monster, I believe, is June 5th. So good luck to her. And congratulations on finishing the Brute Series once again. What a tremendous effort. Just really cool. She had some unsupported FKTs along the way. Just such a neat thing to do with such beautiful courses. You can find out more about the Brute Challenge. I'll post the website on the show notes. And next up, we have Charles Raffensberger, our creator of the Brute Challenge, and also just an amazing gentleman with so much experience that he shares in this interview. He's also one of the co-founders of the Eat Clean, Run Dirty publication, in which we had Jessica on. Jessica is the editor-in-chief and proprietor of that magazine. I'll post that episode in the show notes as well. But I'd be remiss to say that Charles does a lot for our community, as you'll hear in this interview. So here's my time with Charles. I'm welcoming to the show today Charles Raffensberger. Charles, it's good to see you, man. We were catching up here. We started recording, but I definitely want you to kind of introduce yourself and all the good stuff about you.
Well, I'm married to a wonderful woman, Psyche Raffensberger, Psyche Wimberly, formerly. I have a house. I have kind of a weird personal situation. I have a house in Atlanta and a house in Black Mountain, North Carolina. So for another year or two here, I'm commuting back and forth. But I've got 4 children, 4 grown children, 6 grandchildren. I've been ultra running. I've been doing ultra marathons for a long time. Kind of a weird segue into just the past. I did my first ultra back in 1989. There was a 24-hour race that the Atlanta Track Club held.
Oh, wow.
I had just gotten into marathons and thought it'd be kind of cool just to see how far I could go in 24 hours. I didn't actually run the whole 24 hours. I only did about 14, and I did almost 50 miles. And after that experience, I stayed really just on road running and so forth for really almost another 19 years. And I didn't know anything about running on trails. I didn't really even understand people ran on trails. So kind of got into the ultra running world by doing a half marathon, a trail half marathon called the Granite Grinder back in 2008. And loved it and just gravitated towards not only trail running, but longer trails. So that's kind of a little bit about the history, my history of getting started in the sport and getting involved in some of this stuff.
So when did running really start for you? Since, I mean, you did a 24-hour in 1989. When did running start?
I only started running. It was about the mid 80s, 1986 or so. And I was 20, well, not quite 30, 28 years old. I never ran in high school, other than just, running for fun or just, playing touch football with my friends or whatever. But I never ran in high school. I only played a couple sports, little league baseball, and I was on the tennis team at high school. But, I started running. I was kind of getting out of shape at that point in time in the mid 80s, and, gaining some weight, getting out of shape because, I've had a desk job for all these years. And so, I noticed some friends of ours were running the Peachtree Road Race. They had entered the Peachtree Road Race. And it was at that point in time, up until then, it was, not that big of a deal. But in the mid 80s, they were starting to add, thousands more people were starting to run the Peachtree. And I thought, well, gosh, if they could, if this, friend of mine and his wife can run it, why couldn't I? And, I started literally just, running around in my backyard because I was embarrassed to go out on the road, and, finally got the courage to, put a pair of shorts on and get some real shoes and get out on the road and run around my neighborhood. And, love the feeling, and, started entering some 5Ks and 10Ks and halves and that sort of thing. So that whole history of getting into running was, really just started with the Peachtree. And I did, I think I ran 3 or 4 Peachtrees.
Okay. Right on. And what was the reason that, were you just conscientious of yourself at the time that you were running in your backyard? Why was that?
Yeah. Just self-conscious, self-conscious. I didn't even have a pair of running shoes or even tennis shoes at the time. I had a pair of leather work boots that I ran around in. I put a pair of cut off jeans in my work boots.
It looked like the village people.
Yeah. So anybody that saw me back there would go like, "What is that nut?" He just ran around his backyard 50 times. So,
oh my God, you were kind of an ultra runner, quarantined before the
yeah. That was my ultra running back then.
That's fantastic. And so the 24-hour that you did, that was it like a road 24 hours, a track, or what was that one?
That was actually on a high school track at a high school here in Atlanta. And the Atlanta Track Club used to have a group within the Atlanta Track Club that was basically an ultra running group. And they put on this 24-hour race every year. And they, up until that year, they had run it at the Atlanta Waterworks. That was their main location. And for some reason that year, I think they were doing some construction or something. There was I guess a big kind of dirt path around the Atlanta Waterworks. So they couldn't hold it that year. So they moved it to this high school. So, it was just a typical 24-hour, a typical time race thing where you go, every 4 hours you change direction on the track.
Right.
And, it was just such a different experience, running at that time, running that distance. I had no idea what I could do. And by the end of that thing, without having trained for it, I was doing some marathon training, but without having really specifically trained for it, my legs just felt like lead. I could hardly move my legs by the end of the day when I got off the track. But one cool thing about it, one really cool thing about it is there were several people in that race that are still doing ultras today.
Nice.
Like Richard Schick, Ray Krolowitz.
Yeah.
And, what's the other guy's name? Richard Westbrook.
Okay.
So there are 3 guys there. I think Richard Schick He did like 129 miles that day. So, and that, there were only like probably 50 finishers or something like that. Or 50 people that did it, so it was a neat experience, but
that's cool.
I didn't revisit ultras again for like literally another 19 years. I did some road marathons and stuff like that, but
did it leave a negative impression on you, or you were just like, this isn't for me right now?
No, it was really more just, I was just too busy. Life was just too busy with kids and work and everything. I was working a lot of hours, and back at that time, I mean, there were only a smattering of ultras around the Southeast, and I mean, really, you'd have to plan a travel vacation to go to any of the other races. There were probably only 8 or 10 races at most. Mm-hmm. So it would have been a whole lifestyle change, and I just couldn't do it. I could pick out a couple of marathons because there were more marathons at the time, especially around the Atlanta area. So
right on. And so 19 years down the road, you found yourself signing up for another ultra?
Well, 19 years. This was back in 2008. A friend of mine sent me a list of races. He knew I did 5Ks, 10Ks, and up to marathons. And he sent me a list of local races, and I saw one on there that was on trails. And I thought, that'd be interesting to do. It'd be something different. I had never done that before. So I did that one. And at that, I loved it. I love the experience of running on trails. So much different than running on roads. But a couple folks from the Georgia Ultra Running and Trail Run Society, GUTS, they had a little tent there, and they were passing out information about joining the GUTS group. And so, and I looked up their information. I ended up joining the group, and I saw that they were putting on a marathon called the Mystery Mountain Marathon up in the mountains. So I signed up for that, and while technically it's a marathon distance, I call it an ultra because it had like 7,000 feet of climbing or something like that, and so I did that race the following October of the same year. And I was just hooked, I mean, how it is, like it can be a miserable experience when you're, 25 miles in or whatever. Yeah. And then you finish it, and the exhilaration of knowing what you just did, and just, that you finished that, something like that it was incredible. And I just started looking for more races. And 2009, I did a few more, did my first trail 50 miler at Lookout Mountain. And then 2010, I just really ramped it up, and I was racing, a couple races every month, every 3 or 4 weeks. So, and I don't do as many right now, but I'm still out there trying to do some races. But that was kind of the genesis of the whole thing, kind of what got me started.
Nice. And forgive me, did you have any hundreds under your belt?
I did one. I have successfully completed 100 miler, and that was at the Bart. There was a race that they don't hold anymore called the Bartram 100s.
Okay.
In Milledgeville, Georgia, and so it was basically 100K. You could do either 100K or 100 mile, depending on the amount of the number of loops that you did. And so that back in 2010. So I did that 100 miler, and then I have since attempted several more 100 milers. I attempted Pinhoti a couple times.
Okay.
I have a couple. I've got a whole collection of DNFs. I attempted Pinhoti a couple times. Didn't got to mile 55, 65. I attempted Grindstone the year before last and got to 80 miles. Okay. I think there's at least another one in there that I attempted, but those are the main ones. Yeah. But so I'm going to attempting Grindstone again this year. I'm going to go out and see if I can push through the whole way.
And you had mentioned your wife. Is she also running Grindstone, or?
No, she is. And Psyche, she's done a fair number of ultras herself in the past. She is not currently she's running a little bit, but she's kind of transferred over to doing strength training, weightlifting, and that sort of thing. So yeah. So and we still get out and run occasionally, but
right. She's one of the lucky ones to have lined up at Barkley.
Yeah.
Yes. And did she make a loop?
She made a loop. Yeah. She made a whole loop. Well, so we have an interesting little Barkley story that, because in 2011 I did a loop at Barkley.
Okay.
And so 2012 we both went back out there and she did a loop. So, and we had kind of weird stories about our time there, because
at Barkley.
We were both on the wait list. Both those years we were both pretty far up on the wait list, and gradually moved down. And so I was in 2011. I was the first one on the wait list, and we decided, it was like our third or fourth, and we decided to go up there anyway, even though I wasn't in the race at that time. And so we got, we camped, we set up camp there, and then literally Friday afternoon, Laz came around and said, "Hey, guess what? You're in the race." And, because the guy in front of me was a guy named John DeWalt, and his wife had passed away that week.
Oh.
So it was a sad, tragic way to actually get in the race.
Yep.
And then the following year, Psyche was up on the wait list. She had the same exact situation. She had moved down to first on the wait list. And that Friday, but she was right behind, the guy that was actually in the race was Luis Escobar, from Born to Run. He's out in California. That was the same week that Micah True passed away. Huh. So Lewis dropped his spot in the Barkley to go hunt for Micah True. So it's really a tragic story, but that's how Psyche got in the race. But 2012 was crazy because they filmed a documentary there, and she's in a little bit of footage of the documentary. And yeah, it's Barkley's a whole other animal.
I know. It's the question on everybody's tongue when you say that you run ultras, right? Like, have you run Barkley? And of course, my answer is no. And then their next question is, are you going to run Barkley? And my answer is still no.
Yeah. Yeah. It's like I did it once, or I attempted it once. I don't have any desire. After that year, I actually put my name in a couple more times. A couple of subsequent years, because I thought, I want, for whatever reason, I had the desire to go back there. And then, and then one of the years I would have gotten in it, but I got dreadfully sick that week. So I ended up having to just close up my camp up there. I actually gone up there and set up campsite, and then I had to bail, and I went to a motel there in Wartburg. and then just emailed Laz and just said, "Hey, I can't do it. I'm too sick. Give somebody else my spot."
Well, I understand that, people's want or need for that, push themselves, to a challenge. I think in my perspective, like 100 miles is challenging enough.
Yeah.
Like, I come from a track background. I was a speed guy. So I'm not 100-mile guy. I do it, but I do it because I'm still learning it. And I'm, it's one of those, like, I don't know if I'll ever master it, but like, I progressed to that part in my career where I'm like 100 miles is a challenge, every time it's different. So, but like Barkley's, it's just kind of, it feels like it just goes to that next notch. It's like, you could consider it like 100 miles, but in effort wise, it seems like it's more one of these 200 milers,
Yeah.
But you went on the loop. like, talk about your experience there. And I know this is kind of off topic, but I think
that's okay.
It's happening and people would love to hear about it.
That's okay. Well, the year I was in it, it was the first basically completely night start. Like he blew the conch shell at 12:07 p.m. or a.m. Excuse me. And so we started at 1:07. In fact, and I'm a really poor sleeper anyway, so I don't think I got any sleep before I heard the conch shell, and so people started getting ready, and I actually missed the start, so I didn't even get to see him light the cigarette. I got up there about 2 minutes late when everybody was like already started off down the trail, and I was, I guess at the time too. That was in 2011. So. In 2010, I had run a lot of races. I had finished that first 100-miler or my only 100-miler a couple months before that. A couple months before I was, put my name in for the Barkley, and so I was confident and cocky, and I thought, hey, how bad can it be, And like a dummy, we got up there a few days before the race. We didn't even go out on the trails, and I didn't even get to even see what any of the trails were like, much less the layout of the whole park and where the various features are, the mountains and so on. I just thought, well, I can tag along with somebody, and I can do it that way. They tell you to find a veteran, and so. You start out in the middle of the night, and you're on some trails, and the other thing is I had broken my arm on the Foothills Trail 2 months before that, so I had gone through surgery, and I have a plate in my right wrist basically, and so that kind of came into play where some of the more technical or the more difficult sections, I didn't want to chance re-breaking my arm. So it kind of slowed me down a little bit, but so you go up and you're on what they call, where he calls candy ass trails, the first part of it, and it was okay. That part was okay. I after the first book, I didn't have any problem finding the first book, and I got in, and I had one trekking pole. Like, I was kind of a dummy at the time too. I don't know why I didn't have I had one trekking pole attached to my pack, and shortly after the first book, I had noticed that it had dropped off. I had lost my trekking pole.
Oh no!
And so that was one thing. That was one weird thing, and so I finally, I kind of came. I went along, I found a group. There was a group of, there were 5 or 6 of us that were kind of going the same speed. And that was nice because there were a couple veterans in the group, like Frozen Ed, Ed was in the group. And so he's obviously a veteran because he's written a book about it.
Yeah, I have the book.
And, so, we all kind of navigated around together. There was always somebody in the group that could kind of figure out which direction to go. And, the story that you hear, people, virgin scraping is actually, it is kind of a real thing. It's not, it's not intentional. It's just that people are just in a hurry to get their page out of their book and run on and, go on to the next one. So when you get to a book page, I was always the last one there. And, I'd pull out my book page. And by the time I would pull out the book page, or, there was a water stop there too, pull out my book page or fill my bladder with water, the rest of the runners were gone. And it's, here it's in the middle of the night, and there's, I didn't memorize the directions. You have the directions written down, but good Lord, the directions are like 5 pages, single type, and they're so specific. The directions are really, really specific. Look for this tree that has 4 trunks, and it's on the right side of the creek that you're standing next to, et cetera, et cetera. But Yeah, so I got scraped once, and I started panicking. So it was like along a dirt road section, and I didn't know where the other runners were, and I was panicking a little bit. I didn't know which direction to go on the road when I came back to the road. Do I go left or right? I didn't know. Thankfully I chose the right direction, or whatever it was, and yeah, we also had a hailstorm. There was a thunderstorm that came over, so we had hail that night.
Yeah,
and there's the infamous like son of a bitch ditch. So we were going through that right when the hailstorm came through.
I guess.
And right at the same time, my calves started cramping up. So I kind of, I had several of these kind of quintessential Barkley moments. So I'm laying in the ditch with my calves cramping in a hailstorm in the middle of the night.
You got the full experience.
Yeah, I got the whole experience. I got my money, my $1.60
and what
in flannel shirt or whatever it was at the time. And then let's see. So I followed around with the group, and we got to the base. There was a book at the base of the Testicle Spectacle climb. And it's a power. It's a steep power line cut, and there's briar filled, kind of like Rat Jaw, and we got to the base of that climb, and I was the last one to pull my page out of the book. And by the time I had pulled my page out of the book, the rest of the group had already gone. They had already started up the climb, and because I'd had that broken arm a couple months before that, I just wasn't as fit. I could not catch up to them up that climb, so I just fell back, and I was on my own really for the rest. That was like that was about halfway around the loop, I guess. And so I was on my own after that. And it's a whole different story when you're trying to navigate that course on your own. And, the thing that, people see these elite runners, Jared Campbell and so forth, that have finished it. And I'll tell you, honestly, I don't think any elite runner could finish that course under the time limit on their own. Just because of the navigation, it just takes too much time. You have to get out the pages. You have to get out your directions, and you have to look at the map. And the thing is, you don't want to go fast because you don't know exactly what direction to go. When you're on the off trail sections, so if you go too fast out, the wrong direction, you've gone way farther than you should have, and before you realize your mistake and have to come back and then go out another direction, or find the next kind of waypoint. So that was kind of an issue, and I knew at that point, it was going to be a challenge. So the long story short is I finished the loop, but it took me 19 hours to do it, and I got all my book pages and everything, but by the time I got back, it was almost dark again. It had taken all day long, all day to get back. And, but I also had, I had a crazy adventure down near the prison, like the last little section when you're going down Rat Jaw. You had climbed up Rat Jaw, and, there was a water kind of aid, he had water jugs at the top of that. So I was up there with a couple people, like Howie Stern was up there at that time. Howie and I hit the top of that together. And then the couple guys, Steve Durbin too, they went off before I could. And then, so I was on my own again, going down Rat Jaw, and I got down close to the bottom. There's a really steep section before you get to the prison, in the prison tunnel. And I knew I had to get down. I had to literally get down on my butt and slide down the little section. So as soon as I sat down, I noticed a snake. I had sat down almost right next to a snake, and he was really aggressive. So, going back to the first part of the story, I had my trekking pole now because one of the other runners had picked it up and carried it to me and gave it to me at the top of Rat Jaw. But anyway, so I'm literally like, as I'm sliding down this little steep slope, I'm trying to beat this snake off away from me with my trekking pole.
Oh my God.
And so, yeah, it's kind of crazy. And then you get down to the prison tunnel, and so the problem I had at the prison tunnel was, how do I even get up? And because you have to climb up into it. It's not like you can just walk in it. You have to kind of climb or jump over to the little ledge that leads you into the tunnel. And because I had that broken arm, I didn't know how to get into the tunnel. I was like afraid of grabbing something and swinging over. Right. I finally grabbed, like, there's an iron gate that you could I could grab the iron gate and swung myself over, so I didn't put too much pressure on my arm. But,
oh, goodness.
But yeah, so and the rest of the loop was, just tough. You go down the, what is it? The zip line, they call it. Zip line was terrible. Just a lot of brush and debris and stuff like that. But you finish up and, they play they played taps for you, and it's kind of emotional, really.
Yeah. Oh my goodness, that's amazing. Thank you for sharing that.
Oh, you're welcome.
And so, obviously, you've had some great experiences. That's tremendous. And our conversation is, we're going to start focusing on the Brute Challenge.
Yeah.
Which you came together. When did you have the idea for this? I guess we should start with Natalie and I have talked in a previous episode, but how did you bring this all together, and when was that you brought this all together?
Actually, I can't remember exactly when it was. It seems like it was maybe about 4 years ago or so, 3 or 4 years ago, and I think the impetus for it, or the idea for it, somebody had posted something, if my memory is correct, I think it was somebody had posted a question on the East Coast Trail and Ultra Runners Facebook group, and they basically were saying, why isn't there, there's these different grand slams, ultra running slams, like the Grand Slam of ultra running.
Yep.
There's a Midwest Slam of 100 milers, and there's the Grand Slam, and I don't know if there's any more. But so somebody said, well, what would you, if you wanted to put together an East Coast Slam, what race, what would you do? And I started thinking about that, and I thought of various 100-mile races, like maybe mountain races, or maybe a mix of different kind of East Coast races, like the Keys 100 be kind of a cool thing to have in a slam, 400 or 500 mile races, and started putting together just some combinations of races like that. And I don't know if I think somebody mentioned to me, like, why does it have to be a race? Why can't it be one of these trails? And so I thought, well, that's actually a cool idea, because, I know personally I've done, some of these, parts of some of these trails, or even, whatever. And I thought, it'd be kind of cool. And I started thinking of some trails and came up with this list of, kind of iconic, but, not just trails, but runs that are popular for people to do, that, are outside of any organized race. They may or may not have FKTs, or whatever associated with them. But I thought it'd be kind of cool to put together a list of races that, is a slam that was, like a kind of the unrace slam. These are just some cool trail runs that people get together and do. And
the Uncola of ultra running.
Yeah. And started, and thought, well, these are all in the Blue Ridge, and it's kind of cool because they're, there's kind of distinct states. So you've got one in Virginia, you've got Massanutten, and Pitchell in North Carolina, and Scar, which is kind of like you could say that's in Tennessee. Yep. The Foothills Trail in South Carolina, and then the Georgia Loop is one I had not thought about, and I think Jason Green suggested it. Because it's kind of a popular one down here in Georgia. People do, and just the name just kind of came together. It's like Brutes is the Blue Ridge Ultra Trail Endurance Slam. So and I just put it out there, and I really didn't know if anybody'd ever, attempt to do. And the thing is too, I wanted to make it a little more challenging. It's, to finish all of those five trail runs, to do it within a calendar, to do it within a year, to do it within a 365-day period. And if anybody does it outside of that too, I'll add their name to the website. It's just kind of cool. It's just kind of a cool, offbeat kind of a challenge.
Yeah.
I was thrilled, like the first time I heard somebody, my friend William Wells, I was just absolutely thrilled when he messaged me and said, "Hey, I'm going to, I saw your Brutes challenge and I'm going to attempt it."
Yeah. William actually texted me today.
Awesome.
I was actually just looking at the results page. You've got, let's see, 4 finishers thus far. Yeah.
Yeah.
Yep. So William was the first one.
Right.
Then you had Greg Reeves.
Right.
Kimani Long.
Mm-hmm.
And then Natalie, obviously, Natalie Daniel, who, we've got along with this podcast. Let's see, William completed it in between 2018 and 2019, looks like.
Yeah. He started 28 to about midway through 2018.
Yeah. And then actually Greg wasn't too far behind.
Right. Yeah. Just a few months behind.
Yep. And then Kimani was 2020.
Mm-hmm.
And Natalie between last year and this completed it, which is, that's fantastic. It's really cool. We were talking, before we started recording about, like the distance on this. I said, what if somebody could string this together in, back to back efforts? And then I looked at, what that would entail. We're talking 339 miles and an insane amount of vert. I didn't even do the computations on the vert, but we're talking like, probably upwards of, I would guess, over like 100,000 feet. It's got to be,
yeah, easily. Yeah.
Between the 5 of them. So it would be some kind of, that would be an amazing accomplishment if somebody did that, kind of like what we were talking about John Kelly's Grand Round over in the UK.
Yeah.
Amazing picks for sure. Was there anything that you thought of that maybe didn't make the list?
Well, when I was trying to think about it originally, I thought of, I guess trails like the Bartram Trail. And there might have been a couple others that I was, I had considered, but then I started thinking the Bartram was like it's like 111 miles, and I only know of like 2, maybe 3 people that have run that trail, in a continuous mode. Mm-hmm. There's a lot of people that hike it for sure, but that's kind of. I kind of threw those, longer distances out, because I thought these are just they're right in the sweet spot. They're really challenging. They have a lot of elevation, a lot of vert, and they're just in that sweet spot of, something that's really challenging, but maybe not too, not exceptionally hard, for somebody to go out and do, a Bartram or something like that, And I have actually finished one of them. I've done the Foothills Trail, but I've only done parts of 3 of the other ones. I've done about half of those, but I know all of the trails. I've been on all the trails. The only one, as I was telling you earlier, the only one I've never set foot on the Massanutten Trail, but that just seemed like a no-brainer to add because. I know they do a ring challenge up there. There's the Massanutten one. There's the race itself, the Massanutten 100. But there's also a group of people up there that do the ring challenge every year.
Yep.
So I thought that that really kind of fit right in there with all the other ones, and it's cool too because it adds another, Blue Ridge State.
Yes,
This is Virginia. So.
Yeah. Has anybody kind of chimed in and said, have you thought about this one?
I haven't really heard, I haven't really heard it. I really haven't heard that much of chatter outside of the people that have actually, completed these 4 people or a few other people. I have heard from a few other people that have messaged me and said that they wanted to do it, or they've started to do some of these. Mm-hmm. And I can't really think, there's a guy named Jeremy Peterson. I think he's done a couple of them, but, so yeah, I really haven't gotten any other suggestions for anything else to add to it. So
I think I first recognized it when Kamani did it. Cause I even believe you posted, right? That Yeah. So I think that's when I first became aware of it. And then, Natalie, when she finished Massanutten, I think it was, because she had to make 2 attempts at Massanutten, somebody else actually said, this would be an interesting conversation. And that's when I started really kind of like looking at what this entailed. It's a great creativity. I love it. I think, like you said, it makes a brilliant kind of summation of some of the, classic and best routes in the Blue Ridge. And I think probably the most famous of them is becoming Pitchell.
Yeah.
Like everybody in their kid wants to complete Pitchell.
I know.
So, fantastic route. Like I said, love all the choices. I love that it's in different states as well. Has anybody said, like, would you ever come up with like a buckle for something like this for completion?
I've thought a lot about trying to do maybe not a buckle, but something else unique, some kind of, and I still might, but kind of, I think on one of the pages of the website, I said something like, the reward is basically doing it, just in the actual effort, you know what I mean?
Absolutely. Yeah.
But, we've got, I don't know if you know about the Foothills Trail thing too, but the Foothills.
But go ahead.
Yeah. If anybody that runs the Foothills Trail, they'll get a BMF wallet. I don't know if you know that little nugget, but
that's cool.
But so, if I did anything for this, it'd have to be something that was a little offbeat, maybe not a buckle, but just something else like that would be completely unique and out of the box.
Yeah, that's awesome. Maybe like a flask.
yeah, something like that.
A BMF flask. That's tremendous. So, and that was, I guess, like another question I was going to ask you. You seem to have more of an affinity for the Foothills Trail. Where did that stem from? And talk a little bit about that.
Yeah. So back in 2010, I hooked up with. Hang on one second here.
Yeah, sure.
No, I met some people through some ultras in South Carolina. There's a lady named Terry Hayes that used to live in South Carolina. She's in Florida now, but she put together a series of ultra races up there, and I had gone up to there to do one of them, and I'd started to get to know a few of the other people in that kind of in the scene of doing those races. And a couple of them, Dan Hartley and Jason Sullivan, had talked about wanting to run the Foothills Trail. That was a big goal they had that year. And I knew a little bit about the Foothills Trail. I had read some race reports, some blog reports about the Laurel Valley run that they used to do up there every year. Claude Sinclair used to put together, every year in August, they would have this Laurel Valley race. And I thought, wow, that's kind of cool. There's 34 miles of trail up there that's really not accessible. Like you start and for 34 miles, you're on trail. And, until you pop out at the other end of the trailhead. And so I thought that was pretty cool. And then, so I got in with this group of people, and actually my wife, Psyche, was one of them. We invited her to join the group. And so we did, and that was actually where we literally met each other at one of those group runs, my wife and I. And so we did a series of training runs, so like we wanted to experience parts of the trail just to get familiar with parts of the trail before we attempted the whole thing. And so we did these series of training runs, and to make a long story short, we scheduled our attempt to do the whole 77 miles of it in August. And it turned out to be the hottest day of the year. And there were 6 or 7 of us that started it. None of us finished it. And I got about halfway in, and I got this total case of heat exhaustion, and I was lucky it didn't really turn into heat stroke. I was probably just a hair away from just going into full on heat stroke. Cool. And Psyche had a terrible experience. She got off trail at one point and then got lost, and she was on the trail all night. And so we had this kind of crazy experience, but that kind of led to some additional attempts, that were semi-successful, several more times. I attempted the Foothills Trail 4 times, and, so I had the heat exhaustion. I had another time where I had horrible cramping in my legs that just took me out of it. I had to get off trail. Yeah. I had another time where my heart rate was just going berserk. I got 60 miles in and my heart rate was just super high, and I just didn't think it was prudent to continue. And then the other time was the time when I actually broke my arm on the trail. So didn't make it the whole way that time either. So anyway, and my fifth attempt was back in 2014. I actually finished running the whole trail that time. But so I had this, long history of, we would get together on the trail, and, Psyche and I would go there for just training runs a lot of the time. And so I forget what year is not too long after that first attempt. One of our friends who did it, Jason Sullivan, put together a website he wanted to track, finishers, or, he wanted to track all the run attempts on the trail. So he put together a website, and then it got to the point where he didn't have time to maintain it. So he passed it over to me. I volunteered to take over maintenance of the website. So basically anybody that runs the Foothills Trail or even attempts it, they can email me or contact me, and I will record their times on the website. Nice. So it's kind of cool. The website's got a bunch of information about it. It's kind of an old school website, and but that's kind of where my connection with that trail came in. And the Foothills Trail is great because, like I said, it's got a variety. It's got such a variety of different things. Like, yeah, you go up and over the highest point in South Carolina on the trail. Sassafras Mountain. Yeah, it's got it's got several waterfalls that you should run by, or
stairs, right?
What's that?
There's just a few stairs, right?
Yeah, just a few stairs. Somebody, I don't know what the total count of stairs or steps is on that trail.
I'll count it for you the next time.
It's like it's over 5,000, I think.
Oh my gosh! Yeah, Sam Reed. He was on the podcast. I recorded with him when he did his unsupported FKT. And, he talked about the amount of bridges and stairs.
Yeah.
The most notable, of the whole journey.
Yeah. Well, it's kind of crazy when they designed the trail, when they designed and built it, they didn't use switchbacks for a lot of places. They just cut these wooden steps into the side of the mountain. So you're going, and I guess, I don't know why that, they designed it that way, but yeah, it's quite challenging. And, it's like I joked to a friend of mine, a friend of mine, Kim Russell, I got a shout out for her. She just did a 102-mile run through from Jones Gap State Park, or actually even east of that, all the way over to Oconee. So it included a big chunk of most of the foothills trail. But I joke with her that because I paced her for part of that, I just joked with her that we, I don't want to go up anything. I don't want to go down to, because you go down and there's a lot of gorges that you go down into and cross a river. They got these incredible bridges that they built, these incredible suspension bridges over the rivers. If you're going down, you're going to climb right back up, so it's like, I don't want to go down. I don't want to go downhill anymore.
Yeah, because you're just going to go right back up.
Yeah.
Yep. It's the way of the world,
But it's a beautiful trail. It's got a big section along the Chattooga River too, which is really pretty. So yeah, you just fell in love with that trail. It's very different. The Mountains to Sea Trail that's part of the Pitchell course it's beautiful and it's gorgeous in its own right.
Yep.
And all of them. The Scars. It's got part of that Appalachian Trail and.
Yep.
So, yeah, they're all pretty. They're beautiful and iconic.
Yep. No, absolutely, yes. You're tremendous in giving back as well. Charles has been and his wife have been the captains for Aid Station 1 at Hellbender. So every time everybody reaches Star Gap, your smiling faces at 5 a.m. And I can't appreciate and thank you guys enough for being a part of that.
Oh, well, that you put together that Hellbender is just wonderful. That's just an amazing course. I can't imagine. The people that do that, it's, I after we ran that aid station, we came back out. I came back out later and just watched, people just to hang out, see people finish. It's so inspiring.
Cool. Well, it's as I always say, it's an army, right? Like, Brandon Thrower had the vision of the course. I just had the vision of putting something together here in Western North Carolina, and it took a numerous other people for this to transpire. So, the evolution of this race is just tremendous. And I'm glad that we're working on 2022.
Yeah. Looking forward to that. That'll be great.
Me too. And we're hoping to have a more consistent date going forward, where we can secure that weekend. It's going to hopefully be the first weekend of May every year, is what we're going for.
Oh yeah. That's awesome.
Yeah. So we're trying, and Camp Greer is trying to get that trail, but the trail is gonna, it's gonna take about $75,000 to cut. So we're gonna try to raise some funds and help that cause, so that we can run right out of Camp Greer and finish there as well. It's exciting. I'm really glad you guys are a part of that, because it's the community that makes it so special. And I hope more people will take on this challenge. It seems to be that, with races coming back, there's still so much action that's not at races. Like, people are still going for, challenges like this, FKT, whatever it may be. It's just, everybody's kind of seen a new side of things where, you don't necessarily have to pay for a race to have an amazing experience. And, the great thing about these, as Natalie has proven, is that, you can do this on any given weekend if you're feeling good.
Yeah, exactly.
Which is pretty cool. So I really appreciate the fact that you've come up with something like this. I fear what you may think of next. I've heard talks about, making kind of a grand slam of having, Hellbender, Eastern States, Grindstone, and Cruel Jewel. Those four.
Oh yeah, that would be
a heck of a grand slam. Man, to do those in one calendar year. Gosh, because you would hit Cruel Jewel first. Well, no, technically it would be Hellbender, but then right after that, you're going right into Cruel Jewel. So those are almost back to back. Those would be the same month. That would be enough in and of itself right there. And then, Midsummer is Eastern States in August. And then you cap off the year in late September, early October with Grindstone. So you got a little bit of recovery, there for number 3 and 4. But if you're going back to back, Hellbender to Cruel Jewel, I would pray for you.
I can't even imagine. Yeah. Have you done any of those other ones like Eastern States or?
I've done Eastern States. Yep. I tease the race director all the time because he came to do Hellbender and did not finish. But I do have my shiny Eastern States buckle. So we joke all the time. He's a great guy. It's an amazing course, super challenging, super hard. Footing is, it's notorious for Pennsylvania. It's rocky.
Rocksylvania, they go.
Yep, Rocksylvania. Yep. So I do have my Eastern States buckle. I cramped up, much like you've been talking about, at Cruel Jewel in 2019 prior to UTMB. I had to drop pretty early. I don't know what was going on, but at 17 miles, my legs just started spasming.
Yeah.
So I had to drop out there. I have Grindstone was actually my first 100, so I've completed that one. And, obviously Hellbender's so young. At some point, I would love somebody to, just take over for the day so I could go play in the mountains and run Hellbender. But I don't foresee that happening at any time soon. But, I would love to run Hellbender and get that buckle as well at some point.
Yeah.
But, to do it in one calendar year, that would be, man. Whew.
Yeah, that would be awesome.
That would be awesome. There's so many cool things, especially here on the East Coast, and everybody's coming up with something harder every year. Yep. There's some really creative people out there and just willing to do some cool stuff. So I'm appreciative for that for our sport and seeing new routes pop up. I think that's really cool too. I love the fact that we kind of see what people are doing around the world and try to replicate that. As we were talking about earlier with the loops. Bob Graham, that when John Kelly did the Yeah. So, I mean, having something like that, that would be something epic, here in North Carolina to have a loop, some kind of mountainous loop, 100K-ish distance. I've always, you can see it, people listening can't, but I've got the topo maps.
I see it. Yeah, I see those.
So I constantly am scouring, to try to make some kind of epic loop that would just be, it's not a race. It'd just be, that kind of like the Bob Graham loop, something to that effect. So,
you can wait a few years. They're doing that 100 miles of trails in Hickory Nut Gap. Or around Lake Lure.
Right. But so I tried to think of something that might touch kind of the our portion of the mountains to sea, but then loops into the Smokies and back. And it's hard because there's so much in between. There's not a connector. So, but that would be pretty epic to kind of, to make a circuit like that. And supposedly they're making new trails that will be in that corridor and might start making connections. But, again, this is, all down the road and a lot of hearsay. There's a lot of things that have to happen in order for those trails to go in. I don't think people realize what it takes for new trails to happen. All the, the studies, and I mean, not only archaeological, but they do the NEPA studies to make sure that there's no kind of flora or fauna that would be disturbed. So, I mean, there's all these things that have to be done to make sure that they're not disturbing any sort of, living, or historical. But it's an amazing process. So, but man, anything else that we didn't touch on that you wanted to talk about?
No, I'm good. Yeah. The challenge is out there if anybody wants to.
Yeah. I will put the website in the show notes again. And is there anything else I should put in the show notes? How can they reach out to you? Is there a contact? I believe there's a contact on here, right?
Yeah. People can message me through Facebook or my emails, just my name, first name, last name at Gmail.
Okay.
And there is, if they go to the foot, well, actually, I think there is contact information on the Brute site. Yeah. I've got my email. I've got an email on there, the Foothills Trail Ultras email. Okay.
I wrote down the charlesraffensberger at gmail.com. So I'll put that in the show notes for folks if they want to reach out, if they have questions or, want to get more information.
Yeah, great.
And I mean, you got a great site here. When you go to results, especially under Greg Reeves, it has all his Strava activities. So you guys can click on his links and go to his Strava uploads and kind of get the course and such. And you can actually download GPX files from there. And I'm sure all of the apps, if you go onto those, the routes are probably on like All Trails and all that stuff.
Yeah, so. Probably. Yeah, I haven't looked.
Any words of advice for those that are looking to take on the challenge?
Well, just be prepared for a lot of climbing, do a lot of climbing training, because each one of these things, each one of them have a substantial amount of climbing, and just make sure to, I would caution anybody, especially if you're doing it solo, just make sure, you have either a way to track you or, if something goes wrong, because maintaining the Foothills Trail site too. I tend to be a worrier for people, I think somebody's going to go out there one of these days and they're going to be totally unprepared and they're going to have an accident or they're going to get lost. And, and some of these places, like, even on the Foothills Trail, there's some remote areas up in northern South Carolina. If you get off trail or if you going the wrong way on some old logging road, it's going to take days for people to find you. So just be safe.
Yep.
And enjoy it.
Good. Well, Charles, I appreciate you and I appreciate your time. I look forward to catching up in person at some point soon. It's been
we will for sure.
Awesome, buddy. I hope you have a great time and a great night. And thanks again for coming on.
Hey, thanks a lot, Aaron. It was good talking to you.
Well, as I said, Charles, just an amazing gentleman. Really loved our conversation. It was really fun and hearing all his stories and such. Amazing guy. Thank you, Charles, for all you do. Really awesome, amazing things. And the Brute Challenge is definitely something that I would love to do at some point. Just those courses are amazing. I have not done a majority of them. Pitchell is the only one that I've done. So the other 4 are on my bucket list. So to get them done in 1 year, that would be pretty amazing. So, but anyhow, thank you, Charles. Today, I really, here in the conclusion, just wanted to focus on one thing. And it was the sad news of the 21 people that died in China, in the 100K. I'm sure you've seen this news. And the reason I bring this up, not only as a service, as a reminder to those that died and a tribute to them and their lives, and love and prayers, obviously, for their families, but as a reminder to us, we get so frustrated when races cancel because of weather or whatever the factors may be that goes into the cancellation of the race. But there are reasons, and not to make an example of this, but it should serve as a reminder that there are dangerous conditions, and we do not want to see people get hurt or worse, die. So as race directors, we have to keep your safety, the runner's safety, at the forefront, and that's why races get canceled from time to time. I've had to do it, postpone races, and I get the frustration. I understand. I want to run races too, and when it gets canceled, I'm bummed, but don't take it out on the race director. It's they're doing what's safe for you. Now it will be interesting to see what details are shed as to why these people were even put under these conditions. The directors made the decision to go forward. I know at UTMB, weather has caused the race to change routes and shorten the race itself just because of snow or freezing temperatures. They make people wear certain gear for winter. There's 3 different kits: summer kit, the regular kit, and the winter kit. So there are precautions, and I really hope that races see this and take it seriously, because sometimes a race just shouldn't go on, and it's not my opinion. It's just the reality for the safety of everyone involved. So, again, my heart goes out to the families and those that have lost someone, in this race. My prayers for those that have died. And I'd just be remiss not to bring this up and kind of just make us all aware, that we have to be careful out there. We have to be prepared. My newsletter will come out next week, beginning of June here. I wrote an article about being over-prepared. And it was actually before this event even transpired. I wrote it for Pace Magazine, and it was about my recent run on the Art Lobe and how over-prepared I was. But I've been on the opposite side of it. I've been underprepared. Bighorn, for example, the Bighorn 100. I was extremely unprepared, and I just suffered through the night. And it was just lack of preparation on my part, and lack of proper gear. It was cold. It was in the 30s, rain and hail, lightning, thunder. It was everything. And thankfully I had a rain jacket, but I just didn't have a good base layer, and I just shivered and suffered that whole night. It was, my feet were wet and cold, and I just, like I said, I did not prepare properly, and I did not bring the gear I needed. So just, we need to take these things into consideration, especially in these longer events. And summer's no different. It's hot. We have to be cautious and be prepared. We should always have fluids with us in this hot weather, and be cognizant of how much we're hydrating during the day and afterwards. Stay on top of your fluids. It's really hot out there, and we need to be really careful about how much we do in the heat, and how our bodies are acclimated to the heat. As it starts to heat up now and we're not as accustomed to it, we need to gradually reintroduce ourselves to the heat. And be careful when we're doing our long runs, and how much heat exposure we have, how much sun exposure we have, as we train for events that are in these heat, these hotter months. Work on some heat acclimatization. I always tell my athletes about using a bath as an immersion. We don't all have access to saunas. If you do, that's wonderful. Probably only need about 20 minutes in a sauna a day for 2 weeks, and then give yourself about probably 5 to 7 days before the race where you stop and just make sure that you're good, hydrated, and ready for the event. But you can use a hot bath and just kind of soak up to your neck, keep the water warm, just stay in there for 20 minutes. And an immersion bath is really it's a great acclimatization to the hot weather. So you can do that at home. Just keep that water warm, tolerably warm. Don't burn yourself. Just be cognizant of the conditions that are presented to you. Know what's going to happen when you go to a race. Like, what are the possibilities, and bring the gear for it. I've got Old Dominion next weekend, the 100-miler, and I'll have a rain jacket packed. I'll have a long sleeve just in case. I know it's going to be. It's supposed to be 80 or over 80, but we have some thunder and lightning. At Umstead, it was the same conditions. It was supposed to be 80. We ended up having some thunder and lightning, and through the night, people just got cold. They just started shivering. Their body temperatures just dropped because they were just wet and and not prepared for the conditions. So don't let these conditions affect your race, and don't put yourself at risk. Everybody worries about you. I'm sure all of you received messages from your friends that don't run about the 21 people that died. That's them worrying about you. Sometimes I know we feel like, oh man, yes, I saw this, but look at it in another way. They are saying that they care about you and they don't want something to happen to you. People they're reaching out and kind of showing your love, and some may be just asking your opinion. What happened here? What do you think? But don't just brush it off. Just kind of take a moment and appreciate the fact that they took the moment to recognize and thought about you. But again, love and prayers for those in China, for those that passed. I know it's a somber moment and a hard way to end the podcast, but my respect for all those folks involved in that. I hope that we can all learn from it and move on and actually make differences so that this type of thing doesn't happen again. But I really appreciate you guys. Thank you for listening. And next episode, I have Corey Keene. Corey is he's an amazing runner, qualified for the Olympic trials in the marathon without ever running a marathon. And unfortunately, he didn't get to go to the trials. But we're going to talk to him. He just won the Quest for the Crest 50K. So we're going to talk not only about Corey, but also about how to train. What's the difference between training for a marathon and a 50K if you're looking to step up. So really can't wait for his conversation. Also have a conversation with Michael Harms. Michael Harms is he's a friend from the Runner's World cover search. When we did the Runner's World contest to be on the cover, Michael and I were two of the 5 male finalists, and Michael is awesome. He runs with his son. His son is a quadriplegic, and Michael adopted Donald, his son, and runs with him. Michael will be running Old Dominion. It'll be his first 100. Donald will be there in support. I can't wait to see both of them. But we're going to talk about his expectations and how his training went and everything leading up to Old Dominion. And then we're going to have a post-run interview and talk about how things went and what he experienced, what he learned, what he did differently, what went right, all that stuff. So I really look forward to catching up with Michael and hearing from him. So yeah, lots coming up. Got some great guests. And as always, if you want to be a guest or know someone, want to hear their story or hear more about them, by all means, please, reach out, let me know. I'd be happy to have, conversations and ideas. But thank you as always to everyone. And until next time, keep running, my friends.
Wrote this song while crewing Aaron on a 100-mile foot race through the trails in the rain and mud. How about that? 100 miles to go. 100 miles to go. Don't ask me why I do it, I don't know. Miles by foot. 100 miles by foot. Don't ask me why I do it, I can't stay put. Rain is a coming, can't give a fit. Rain is a coming, rain is days are coming, can't give up there.